You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
An all-new season of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Mom talk has just been blowing up.
Whitney and Jen are on Dancing with the Stars.
Taylor is a bachelorette.
Saying that out loud is crazy. Like, that is huge.
But all the cool opportunities could pull us apart.
It's causing issues in everyone's marriage.
My whole world is falling apart right now. It's chaos.
Watch the Hulu original series, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Grown-ups, if there's a child in your life who is interested in, curious about, or fascinated by people and places from history, then my podcast, The Past and the Curious, might just be a hit in your home. From the invention of microscopes to world-traveling dogs to fashions of the 1890s, gold rush ghost towns, and audiences going wild for walking competitions, we've got a little bit of it all. Hosted by children's author and museum educator Mick Sullivan, that's me, the show is fun, funny, engaging, honest, and beloved by kids and parents alike. Find The Past and the Curious at all the usual podcast places.
Fantasy feeds the imagination and romance feeds the heart.
I'm Jenny Williamson.
And I'm Jen McMenemy.
And this is Ancient History Fangirl. We are so thrilled to welcome internationally best-selling author and noted enemies to lovers enthusiast Thea Guanzon to the podcast.
Hi guys! Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here. I have so many friends who are such huge fans of your podcast, so this is a bit surreal too.
Oh, really? Oh, that's actually surreal for us because we're just like, oh, wow, people listen to this besides my dad. Like, that still surprises me.
We haven't shouted out your dad in a long time. Hi, Captain Tom. It's your dad and my aunt, my Aunt Rita.
Yes, and Jen's Aunt Rita. Those are our biggest fans. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thea's debut novel, The Hurricane Wars, is an enemies to lovers romantasy with complex layers of world building and intrigue, rich with mythic resonance, brimming with airships, elemental magic, world-rending storms and eclipses, and passionate romance. Welcome, Thea.
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be chatting with you today. Even if I did just wake up.
I mean, same. Your PA was emailing me. She's like, where's the link? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm moving super slow. She was very on it.
It's all right. Listen, we're all like 12 hours apart, so we're all just waking up.
So, we ask all our authors this. I remember as a kid being a huge fan of both fantasy and romance and wondering why there wasn't more kissing in fantasy or more magic in romance. I grew up in the 80s, so, I mean, maybe there were authors doing this, but I wasn't reading them, so I didn't know. But anyway, as a romantasy author yourself, what drew you to both of these genres and what makes you want to combine them? What is your smutty origin story is the question.
I think that you and I sort of have the same origin story in the sense that I was also such a huge fan of romance growing up, romance and fantasy. But I guess like my preferred genre to read in was really fantasy. But I also did start wondering at several points, like why isn't there more kissing? Like
why are they so chaste?
so I really want, like, whenever I read a fantasy book, of course I would be so drawn into the world, I would be so captivated by the magic. There would sometimes be like this little bit of a love story going on in the background. And I, like my trashy little self, wanted more focus on it and never got it. And as for romance, I would say that I read like a lot of my mom's bodice rippers growing up. I wasn't allowed to, but I read them anyway.
This is kind of similar to me. Like, I was 14 and my mom was the town librarian, and there were so many old school bodice rippers, and I was not supposed to read them, so I just would sneak them out of the library without checking them out.
She stole library books to read the smut, as if her mother didn't know what she was doing.
Oh, she knew, but I was a full-on criminal. It was bad.
Yeah, my mom's a book hoarder. Like, I'd love to say she's a collector, but it's definitely a hoard at this point. And she would, when she was younger, had a lot of bodice rippers. And she'd be like, I don't care what you read as long as it's not ultra violent. So like, I remember her just being like, here's one, and being really upset with me that I didn't want to read bodice rippers at like 12 or 13. It was more like when I was in like college.
I have this core traumatic memory of locking myself up in one of the rooms at the house with one of the bodice rippers that I had snuck out of my mom's library. So I made sure that the door was locked. And then I just started reading, and then suddenly I hear this voice saying, "What are you doing?" And then when I look, my mother was standing outside, like was standing in the backyard, peering into the window of the room because she had suspected that I had taken her book. And I was like, "No!"
Oh no, she's reading the smut.
But yeah, so I loved romance a lot. I still love it even as a kid. But yes, I wanted to combine it with fantasy because fantasy feeds the imagination and romance feeds the heart, I want to say. So for me, it's like it's a best of both worlds situation. And what I have been writing ever since I was a kid was always very much rooted in fantasy and imaginary worlds and all the usual tropes that you can find in speculative fiction. But I really I wanted to center it more around like a love story rather than the love story being just one of the plot elements. Because I think the main thing that kind of sets romantasy apart from fantasy is that it won't be the same story if you take the romance out of it. So I wanted it to be an integral part of the plot because for me, romantasy allows you to just let your imagination run wild, while at the same time also tracking what is a very human and relatable experience for all of us. And that is what draws me to it.
That is so beautiful, and I really love your explanation that fantasy feeds the imagination and romance feeds the heart. Like, that is so true.
That's so true, and it's so beautiful. And I think that's one of the reasons that romantasy has now become so popular, and also why your books are so popular, because it's true. You know, we want to have that imagination, and we also want to have the heart of it, and that is one of the things that is really evident in your books.
I think it's been around for quite a while, although the term romantasy is a more modern construct. But I do think that there has been a lot of romance going on in fantasy, like even the classic ones, but it was never marketed as as one of the main draws. And I'm just glad that now there is a term to properly refer to that particular subgenre.
Yeah, I think that's really true because we always had, we had paranormal romance, we had time travel romance, we had stuff like that, you know? Like, I remember there was several series a while back where it was, suddenly all magical druids from Scotland. Like, that was very in, maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago.
Tell me more about these magical druids.
So there's this author called Karen Marie Moning, and she got her start writing about these magical druid heroes. And then there's this series called the Fever series, which I would categorize as an early romantasy, where quite a few books long, and there's a romance, but it was more fantasy forward, but she's got kind of this whole connected world at this point. I'm not sure what she's doing more recently.
Yeah, she's doing a standalone. I think it's about witches. The opening books of the Fever series, I've only read, I think, the first 5, are some of the best, paranormal romantasy I've ever read. The world building is so rich. The romance is really slow burn.
Super slow burn. I don't think they get together until, the second book or something.
No, they don't get together until, the 4th or the 5th. It's a long time.
There's a lot of tension, but her books before that are standalone magical druid man romances, and I really love them.
I will look for them. You've sold me.
So I just have to ask you this, and this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on. Not the only reason, but it was a big reason. So I have a hero named Alaric.
No. Wait, no. I'm going to ask this. Your hero's name, I want to know how you pronounce his first name.
I was going to ask
No,
that,
because you've already hinted how you say it. Your hero's first name, how do you pronounce it? There's a war raging because Jenny also has a hero with that same first name in her debut novel, which comes out in February. Her agent says it one way, Jenny says it one way. I've heard it a different way on the Vampire Diaries. I don't know what the correct pronunciation is. So how do you say it?
I pronounce it Alaric.
Oh, she's in Ellen's camp. I think that's the Vampire Diaries camp. Yes.
How do you say it, Jenny?
I say Alaric.
I've also heard it said as Alaric. I think it's fine.
I think it's fine either way. Like, I never watched the Vampire Diaries, so I never got that pronunciation in my head.
Have you seen the Vampire Diaries?
No, I have not. I have seen a few episodes, but I have never actually watched the show from one episode to the next. But I do want to watch it because I mean at this point it's a cult classic, isn't it?
It is. There's some really good stuff in the opening seasons. There's some really intricate plotting.
But anyway, I have an Alaric, you have an Alaric. We are both people with that name living in our heads. So I figured we'd have lots to talk about. So I guess my question to you is, why is that name so sexy? And were you hearkening back to the history of that name when you picked it for your hero?
I wish I had a better answer to this question, but I do not. The truth is that I just sat down one day and I was like, yeah, I should probably give the MMC a name, an actual name at this point. And I don't know, the name Alaric sort of just came to me. I'm not sure where I heard it before, but I really like the sound of it. And then I was like, okay, yeah, let's just do Alaric for now. And if we do not like it later on, then we can change it. But yeah, I ended up really liking it. And apparently it means and then when I looked it up, when I searched the origin later, it's apparently Germanic in origin. And it means something like leader or ruler or a great leader, something like that.
I've seen it translated as king of all, which is quite self-aggrandizing, and there is some question in the literature about whether or not this was not a name but a title.
Oh!
Dude did not come out of the womb and his mom named him king of all. I mean, I think that would have been a lot.
I mean, some dudes do, but no, I agree. And Jenny's Alaric, is based on the Visigothic ruler who sacked Rome. So he's definitely using that honorific about being the king of all.
Throughout history, royals across the world were notorious for incest. They married their own relatives in order to consolidate power and keep their blood blue. But they were oblivious to the havoc all this inbreeding was having on the health of their offspring. From Egyptian pharaohs marrying their own sisters to the Habsburgs' notoriously oversized lower jaws. I explore the most shocking incestuous relationships and tragically inbred individuals in royal history. And that's just episode 1. On the History Tea Time podcast, I profile remarkable queens and LGBTQ+ royals, explore royal family trees, and delve into women's medical history and other fascinating topics. I'm Lindsay Holiday, and I'm spilling the tea on history. Join me every Tuesday for new episodes of the History Tea Time podcast, wherever fine podcasts are enjoyed.
No one hates history, they just haven't found the right teacher yet. Or in this case, a nerdy best friend who loves to tell you all about world history, women's history, and weird history. Hi, I'm TK, the creator of For the Love of History podcast, a place for people who want to learn more but don't know where to start, and history lovers who want to break from the mainstream. From rat trials to warrior women, we cover topics from every country and era. Whether you're a history expert or just starting out, there's a place for you here in the Time Machine. So join me every Friday on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube for a brand new topic. See you there. Bye.
Hello everyone, Stakuyi here.
And I'm Gabby.
And we are the hosts of History of Everything, a podcast which you can probably guess by the name is, well, it's about everything. Do you want to know why people thought potatoes were evil and would give you syphilis? Are you curious about all the stories of the terrible and stupid ways that people have kicked the bucket over the years? Do you want to hear tales about all of the different badasses of history and the lives that they had brought to life? Well, if so, then look no further. History of Everything is just the right podcast for you. It's available on Spotify, Pandora, and anywhere else that you get your podcast from. Join us for some fun and just see how weird and wacky history can be.
So, you also describe yourself as a writer of romantic speculative fiction about hot mess heroines and the morally gray losers who love them. And I'm just like, oh my God, same. I love this. Let's talk about the hot mess heroines aspect. Is this how you describe your heroine in the Hurricane Wars, Taliesin? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, that's correct. And speaking of names, Talisin's name it comes from the word tala, which is the Filipino word for star. And I added the sin because I was like, I just want to make it more fantasy.
It's beautiful.
It fits her power so well. Oh, I really love it.
Thank you. I would say that yes, she is a hot mess in the sense that she's not sure. You know that phrase like she might not know much, but she's got the spirit. Like that is Taliesin. Like she's very she is thrust into these strange new circumstances and she can hardly make heads or tails out of them, but she tries to power through because that's the kind of person that she is. She's very determined, even if sometimes like it's the wrong kind of determination.
Yeah, I really love that about her. And I was so curious about, like, when we say messy heroines, like, what do we mean by that, you know? Because, like, I think there's so many ways that, like, I've seen so many ultra-competent heroines in romance, like, especially, like, earlier books that were trying to buck the trend of, I guess, even earlier sort of bodice rippery books. And then we kind of get back to this point where it's like women are allowed to be messy again. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that for me, like a messy heroine is someone who sort of like doesn't always make the right decisions. Like she is someone who makes a lot of questionable choices. Sometimes it has the reader going, what is happening? Like, girl, what are you doing? But I think that's the kind of heroine that I enjoy both writing and reading because it's relatable because we read books to sort of get in touch with our own selves, if that makes sense. And there's just something so relatable about reading about this girl who does not know what she's doing, but gets a happy ending anyway.
I agree. I love that because there's something really seductive about being told that, yeah, you're a hot mess, but you deserve love anyway.
Yes, exactly.
It is just so relatable, right? Like, I think we all go through our hot mess period, regardless of how organized or whatever we turn out to be in the end. There was a time where I feel like in order to be like a heroine who is like the star in a fantasy novel, you had to be uber competent. You had to be able to be as strong as all the guys or even more powerful. So it is really nice to see that women get to also have that hero's journey where they can be a mess and they can learn and they can grow and they don't have to come in fully formed and hyper competent in order to be the star of a story.
I will say that Taliesin is also pretty powerful, though. Like, she seems to be Alaric's equal.
Yeah, that was important to me that the two of them be sort of equals because they were coming at it from the enemies part of the enemies to lovers trope, and then they had to move towards the lovers. And because it was such a contentious relationship between them, and because their countries were at literal war, I wanted them to have an equal footing in the sense of their magic and their abilities. And I also wanted to see Alaric down on the ground getting beat up by a girl. That's just one of my things.
Yes. First time you meet Taliesin, you know in the Hurricane Wars that she's a little bit of a hot mess. She's competent. She can do what she has to do. But first time you meet Alaric and you're in his point of view, like, he's kind of a dick. I mean, I love it, but he's kind of a dick, right? When they're like going down into the shaft. I don't want to say shaft. That's wrong.
You're allowed to say shaft on the podcast, Jen.
I mean, I definitely use the term shaft in the book, but I don't think it's in the same scenes that we're talking about.
Jen is like blushing right now.
I get so red because I'm a ginger.
You should see the sex scenes Jen writes, by the way. Like she's she is not this demure when she is writing.
Yeah, but I don't have to read it.
Sometimes you do, Jen.
Okay, anyway, one of the early scenes where you meet Alaric, He's so super confident. He's so like, he's such a dick.
It's a sexy dick.
And like when you first see, Taliesin, she's very like coming from this place of like uncertainty, messiness, but she has enough power that when they meet, they are pretty much equals.
Yes, exactly. Hot mess girls need representation too.
You can be a hot mess and also mask it really well when you have to, which I think she does. I feel like that's a job a lot of women have to do every day.
Totally.
Let's talk about enemies to lovers for a moment. That is one of my favorite tropes and seems to be high up in your list as well.
Oh, it is my favorite trope of all time. Like, I devour it in whatever form it comes in media.
What is it that attracts you to that trope so much?
Do we have like 10 hours for it? No, anyway. Okay, so for me, enemies to lovers is such a fascinating dynamic for me to both write and consume as a reader and a watcher of film and TV shows. I think like one of the major aspects of it that I enjoy so much is that in a way, this trope is sort of like a conquering of one's own self because you have to overcome your own prejudices, your own internal biases. You have to sort of shift your worldview in order to make space for this other person who is in opposite of everything that you yourself stand for. So, yeah, there's a lot of yourself that you have to let go in order to fall in love with someone who is so fundamentally different from the ideals that you were raised to believe were the correct ones. And it's just so nice to me, like a very opposites attract kind of thing. And there is still like in fantasy enemies to lovers when they're actually like when they're actively trying to kill each other. there there's just like I really love straddling that fine line between hate and another kind of passion entirely because if you look at it, they're both like hate and lust are like two sides of the same coin because they're both rooted in passion. And just being able to sort of nudge two characters over that line, it's just so interesting to me. And I think that's a major reason why I will always love this trope.
It is so fun. It's just like electrifying for me. I love a good enemies to lovers wherever I find it. And for me, I've been hearing like a lot of discourse lately about what is a true enemies to lovers versus like what is really like rivals to lovers. And I feel like people draw the line in different places, but I feel like your book is a true enemies to lovers. Like these are people coming together across this vast gulf of war and culture that seems on the face of it kind of unbridgeable, which is kind of what I'm doing in my book too. So I was just like, oh, we've got to talk about this.
I am so excited to read this book.
Well, it's coming out next year, February 5th or 4th. I always get it wrong. It's an Alaric book / Alaric.
I think enemies to lovers is just so sticky because like you said, there's that really, we've all had someone who really pushed our buttons, or at least I have. There's always a line between like, do I like this person or do I really hate this person? Like, I feel like there's an innate tension that exists in that enemies to lovers. And either you can overcome it and be like, oh, this tension is because I really like this person, or this tension is because I really hate this person. Or sometimes it's like, I just need to bang it out. I don't know. And I think like a lot of that discourse, Jenny, about rivals, whether it's rivals to lovers or enemies to lovers, is because in contemporary in particular, it's difficult to really have an enemies to lovers unless you've got like a mafia romance, right? Like rivals is a lot of the times the closest you can get. That competition is based in like a real world rivalry.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday! Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday! Halliday, bring it on!
Anyway, so this is a question I'm so excited to ask you. We both noticed that one of your characters in the Hurricane Wars is named Urduha, after the legendary warrior princess from the Philippines. What real-life history and mythology did you draw from in crafting the world of the Hurricane Wars?
So a lot of the Hurricane Wars is rooted in Filipino mythology, Filipino folklore, because it started. So this is my first book. It started out as the first draft was. I don't want to say it was bad, but yeah, it was bad because the the very first draft.
All first drafts are bad. You should see what I'm working on right now, and I haven't even published a fiction book yet. It's a hot, stinking mess. But you have to have the mess in order to get the brilliance, and you've got the brilliance, so.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so the setting was very generic European fantasy. Not that European fantasy is generic, but in the sense that it was like I had no personal connection to the world. I was just copying what I had read in other fantasy books because that was what I thought fantasy was supposed to be. But when my agent read the first draft, she was very nice about it. She didn't outright say that it sucked, but she was like, "Hey, you know what? You can base this on your own personal experiences. You can make a Filipino inspired fantasy." And when she said that, it was like this light bulb went off in my head, and I thought to myself, "Oh wow, I didn't know I was allowed to do that." And then I rewrote it this time from a Filipino lens, and that for me was when the world really started coming to life because this time I was writing about something that I knew and something that was very, very important to me as well. So, yeah, there was a lot of research that I had to do. I want to say that like I found out more about Philippine history writing this book than I did in all my years at school because there was like I had to consult with a lot of historian friends, and then I had to consult a lot of primary text and whatever. I actually went to the library at one point, and I haven't been to a library since I graduated college. What are the major historically rooted aspects? I think it particularly comes through in the mode of transportation that they use in the world of the Hurricane Wars. So they're using airships, but the airship designs are based on traditional indigenous Filipino vessels, such as the Caracoa, which was an outrigger warship. And there's also the Binta, which you can actually still see today being used by the indigenous people of Mindanao in the Philippines with the very colorful sails and stuff because we were primarily a maritime culture. Boats were how we got from one island to the next because we are an archipelago. So we used boats to travel, to wage war, to trade with other groups of people. So although there are airships in the Hurricane Wars, because I realized that like okay, I cannot have them traveling for like weeks and days on end. They need a faster mode of transportation. And yeah, so Urduha is the queen of one of the realms, one of the nations in the world of the Hurricane Wars, and I based her name. I took her name from Filipino legend. There is some contention as to whether Orduha was like an actual person in history.
She's pseudo-historical. We had this too with Dido, who was maybe the queen of Carthage, maybe not. And like she was really beloved and she's on like coins as if she's a real person, but we're not sure if she was real. And I think it's the same with Orduha. That's why we would put her in our Women of Myth book, even though she could have been real.
There were some figures where it's like they could have been real, but their myth has grown from there, I suppose you could say.
Aisha Kandisha was another one like that too, where we're like, she might have been a real countess, but she might not have.
I didn't know that Dido was actually pseudo-historical. That's amazing. So one of the legends, one of the stories about Urduha that I particularly enjoy is that she said that she wasn't going to marry anyone but the man whom she would defeat in single combat or something like that. That was amazing. So I knew that I'm like, purely from an aesthetic point of view, I just really love the name. It's Urduha. It's just so nice to say. There's also a myth, an in-world myth in the Hurricane Wars, which is basically the story of how there is a dragon that eats the moon, and that's the reason for the eclipse, for the phenomenon of the lunar eclipse. I got that from Filipino folklore as well. In the Hurricane Wars, the dragon is called Bakun, but it's actually based on Bakunawa, which is a legendary sea serpent in Filipino mythology. Someone who eats the moon as well.
I mean, I knew that the Philippines was an archipelago, but like reading your book, there are airships and, that kind of air travel, but it just has this maritime feel to it.
Yeah, the Philippines is like, we are a very I don't want to say aquatic culture because that makes it sound like we're living in the water world, but yes, it's a very maritime culture. We actually have, so we have a lot of ethnicities. There a lot of ethnicities, a lot of different languages, but the one of the languages on which the national language of the Philippines is based, it's called Tagalog. It actually comes from the word Tagailog, which means by the river. So it's you find a lot of things like that here. Waterways were always very important to our culture.
That is fascinating. Are there any periods in history, in Filipino history, that you would say that you leaned on a lot when you were crafting this world?
There was no particular period specifically because I did not base any of the events in the Hurricane Wars on any historical happening or event. But I really, really wanted to focus on making it have this very indigenous feel to it because I wanted to make sure that the mythology, the culture, and everything was based in what was really Filipino, like before colonization. So that was the hard part for me actually, like researching what was indigenous, what was free of colonial influence, because so the Spanish colonized us for 300 years. So a lot of our own pre-colonial history was lost during that time. I had such a hard time looking for like examples of native architecture. It was hard to find, and also it was not what we were normally. It was not talked about in school because I was not an architecture major. So I actually had to call like a lot of friends who were architects, and this one guy, shout out to Hansel, by the way. This one guy actually sketched it out for me what old structures would look like and stuff like that. So it was difficult, but it was also rewarding because I feel like I got more in touch with my roots.
Absolutely. We've definitely encountered that too. Like when we were doing research for Women of Myth, it was really important for us to try to step outside the colonialist lens because a lot of cultures that we were covering had been colonized. And we've dealt with this in the podcast too. And it is sometimes really hard, to tell what you're looking at and to parse out what is and isn't part of that colonist European lens.
Jenny did a lot of research into, and I did too for the podcast, into like Aztec and indigenous peoples of South America and trying to parse out what was their actual beliefs versus what Spanish colonizers and missionaries wrote about them is really difficult.
The Spanish priests were asking indigenous people several decades after colonization what their traditions were, and that is not necessarily as dependable as what people would write down for themselves.
And also, like a lot of these people who were collecting that folkloric and indigenous traditions, they were trying to relate it to something they understood And it's like, yeah, I understand the audience you're trying to reach, but that's not helpful because they're really not.
This episode is brought to you by Cologuard. Do you know what's really scary? Not screening for colon cancer when you turn 45. The Cologuard test is non-invasive, requires no special prep or time off work, and ships right to your door. In just 3 simple steps, Cologuard takes the scare out of colon cancer screening. If you're 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about the Cologuard test. Cologuard is available by prescription only. Learn more or request a prescription today at Cologuard.com/screen.
So, let's talk tropes for a second. Aside from enemies to lovers, which we both agree is the best.
We all agree it's the best.
What are some of your favorite tropes in fantasy and romance, and which ones from either genre do you feel play really well with the other?
Oh, that is so hard. I love tropes. So, okay, let's start with the romance tropes first. I have been really, really into like the reformed Drake trope.
Oh, I love that one.
That's a nice one. I like that one too.
Great when he gets all the experience, but then he's also a decent dude.
I don't know. I just love the idea of someone who is so disillusioned with the world, who is so jaded, and then he finds this girl who makes him question everything. This girl who is initially like giving him a hard time because it's not that she's immune to his charms, but she just doesn't like fall at his feet right away. Like I love that trope so much. I was reading this year. I read The Devil in Winter by Lisa Kleypas.
I have that one. I haven't started it, but everybody recommends it. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes, please read it. Like I have read it. I have read it 5 times now. I'm not joking. It's amazing. And what else? I think yeah, I really like that trope. I also like the sunshine grumpy trope. I don't know, like it's part of like it's part of like my fascination with the opposites attracting. It's like it's two people being so different, but at the same time also being what the other one needs.
With the reformed rake, I think what is so sexy about that to me, at the core of it is like this girl, this woman is somebody that this unchangeable man wants to change for.
Yes, exactly. Another trope that I like, let's move on to fantasy. I actually really love the chosen one trope, but I like imperfect chosen ones, if that makes sense. People who'd like when they're given like this duty, they don't just say, "All right, let's do this." Like they have a lot of doubts about themselves, and then they eventually learn how to overcome those doubts, and yeah, finally they succeed. I think that really resonates with me.
I love like the dark chosen one where it's like either this person is going to be like a really good chosen one or they're going to be the villain.
I love corruption arcs so much.
There's I'm going to see if I can find the manta that I love. It's called Lies Become You, and it's a manhwa. It's also a web novel. It's on if you use the app Manta. It's very sort of ancient Egyptian-y based, but not quite. And it's got the male main character and the female main character who may or may not be the chosen ones. And the male main character, either he's going to like destroy the world or he's going to save the world. And there's no two ways around it. And I love that. And it's spicy and romantic. And she's got all these like hidden secrets she's hiding and he's hiding stuff.
Oh, if you guys like manhwa and if you're in the mood for like some angsty fantasy-ish stuff, I recommend I Wish You Were Dead. I'm just saying it's so sad. Like I cried a lot while I was reading it. It's about this king and his wife. They're in like a political marriage and well, he hates her, but they actually don't know that there is something in the past that connects them both. I don't want to say more because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But yes, I Wish You Were Dead.
What are some of your favorite sex tropes? And are there any, not to yuck anyone's yum, just your personal preference, are there any that are turnoffs for you?
I do not want to outright say that this thing is a turn off because I'm a big believer in trying anything once. You don't know until you try it, right? So I wouldn't say that I have any actual huge turn offs. Okay, this is one thing. whenever I'm writing, like my main problem with sex and fantasy, when I'm writing it, I keep thinking about like, oh my God, have these people bathed? They've been traveling through the woods for such a long time. Are they like, what does it smell like?
Part of the fantasy is that they always smell like roses, right?
Listen, under the oak tree, the male main character is absolutely the most fastidiously clean dude, and I love it.
Yeah, I think that's why like I sometimes go out of my way to say that okay, these people they washed in the river, okay? They smell like soap. It's clean.
It's winter, but they still washed in the river. We don't need to discuss what happened. We don't need to discuss that they went to the bathroom. Just assume it happened.
Yeah. Like we don't need to know that.
I remember in one of Jenny's early drafts of her book, she had a scene where the heroine had to use the bathroom, and I was like, that's fine, but I don't want to know anything about this because in fantasy, nobody uses the bathroom. Like, don't tell me about it, just do it,
I remember I was reading like I was reading a historical romance. I forgot the title, but it was very authentic in the sense that the author was mentioning like the chamber pots in the bedrooms. And I was like, oh, this is no longer sexy to me.
And this is like, as a reader, I'm just like, I kind of don't want to know. I kind of just want to imagine that everybody has minty fresh breath and smells like roses all the time. Like, we don't have to discuss, because sometimes when you do discuss it, it takes out some of the sexy fantasy element. It's like, now I have to imagine these people having sex with a chamber pot under the bed that is full of things you don't want to think about.
And like every time there's a ballroom scene in historical romance, like everything is described so beautifully, and then sometimes like my intrusive thoughts sort of like ripple to the surface, and they're like, these people don't use deodorant. It must smell so bad.
The wigs because everybody had lice. Oh, no. Now it's ruined. Now I can't read romance. It's fine.
I know I have this thing in my head where I'm like, well, maybe in olden times, like it didn't smell as bad because they didn't have like the same weird chemicals we have now. My husband and Jenny and I went to the catacombs in Paris, and my husband was like, look, you can see which skulls here are pre and post sugar coming to Europe because of the erosion of the teeth. And I was like, that's gross. But also before that, like, I guess they probably didn't have that problem, But it's just like, that's the fantasy I create for myself in order to enjoy this. Otherwise, I will have the same nightmare you do, which is like, oh, it's an indoor ball in there and those heavy dresses and those dudes are in those outfits that they never change. I'm out.
So anyway, what are some of your favorite sex tropes?
Yeah, okay. I don't even remember how we got here, but yeah. Favorite sex tropes. Okay, when the fighting turns into the love making, I really like that. When they're in the middle of when they're in the middle of an argument and they're both getting nowhere with it, and they just decide to bang it out. That for me is my favorite trope because not only is it sexy, but it's also productive. Because because after you bang it out, like so that's a bit of some of the tension is resolved, and you could actually focus on solving what the problem was in the first place.
Right, it's called problem solving.
Creative problem solving. I'm here for it.
Via orgasm. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And I also like it when both parties try to top and no one wants to be the bottom. And so they're both trying and so they're both trying to top each other. I really enjoy that. Like it's a struggle for dominance.
Yes.
Not only is it like sexy, but again, it's also there's also like a very fascinating psychological component to it. Like wrestling control from each other, and then eventually like figuring out some sort of compromise that gets you both where you want to go. I really love that. Love reading about it.
I love it too, and like I think that's like the promise of enemies to lovers. Like a really good enemies to lovers, you're just like, oh man, I cannot wait for the fight that turns into fucking. And you love to see that power exchange, right? Because there's still that conflict and that war for dominance between the two of them. Because if one of them wants to submit, then you don't have that enemies to lovers anymore.
My favorite unsung maybe hero is the two people, one bed. And that's definitely comes off of the rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers, where it's like, oh God, we have to stay in this place and we have to huddle for warmth. And we're touching so close and I can't control the way I feel around you.
Suddenly I have to take your clothes off because it's cold. That's logical.
I'll sleep on the floor. No, it's too cold on the floor. Come snuggle with me.
We better take our clothes off and get under this blanket for warmth. It's delightful. I love it.
And then when they wake up in the morning after sharing to stay in bed, they're in like this very snuggly position, and the guy has a boner. I really like that.
Absolutely, I was going right there. The girl's always like, "Oh, I thought he hated me."
The girls are always like, "Oh, what's this that I'm not that my what's this that my butt is up against?"
I've never felt a boner before.
You're just giving me all these amazing reasons why I want to carve enemies to lovers on my body.
I mean, there are worse things you could carve on.
You don't want to carve, you want to tattoo. I'm like, when I think of carving, I think of the Nexium sex cult and the branding. Whereas when I think of tattoo, I think of like, you know, a beautiful work of art.
I'm not saying it's not like the Nexium sex cult. So, sex scenes versus fight scenes. Which one is harder to write in your opinion?
You know what? It honestly depends on the mood that I'm in that day. Because, like, sometimes I just want to write, like, two people banging swords against each other's. And sometimes I just want to write about two people banging each other. Like, it's, I contain multitudes. But a technical standpoint, I would say that fight scenes are probably harder to choreograph than sex scenes. Because, well, I am not like because when I'm staging a fight scene, I always have to do research, like, okay, can a sword swing that way? Can a spear be used to slash instead of thrust? Probably not, right? So yeah, so there's a lot of extra checking back and referencing that I have to do with the fight scenes as compared to with sex scenes. Although I do sometimes have to Google stuff for sex scenes as well. So, yeah, the last thing I remember Googling was like, is it possible to have truly quiet sex? 'Cause is it possible for sex to not make a single sound? That was the thing I had to Google.
I've also Googled how quietly can you have sex on a tour bus? How big are beds on a tour bus? Can you have sex in bunk beds on tour buses?
You probably could, but I don't know how comfortable it would be.
Everybody else on the bus definitely knows what's happening. The bus is rocking.
Yeah. And like there's probably like a smells rising up.
There's so much tour bus etiquette. You're allowed to go a number 1 in a tour bus, but not a number 2. You need to tell the bus driver to pull over. Like, having sex in a bunk bed in a tour bus really depends on the physicality of your hero and heroine. Like, if you've got a larger heroine or a larger hero, it's going to be deeply uncomfortable. Like, if they're quite small, thin and slender, then you have a chance, but still deeply uncomfortable. Otherwise, you've got to write in specialty beds, which maybe I did.
Or you could set it in like a fantasy world where the tour buses have bigger beds.
Yeah, where the tour buses just expand magically.
This is why Thea is a fantasy author. So you immediately go to, or it could just not be in reality. Makes it easier.
And there's a magical charm that goes around them so you can be as loud as you want and no one will hear you.
Yeah, I mean...
Is there anything we haven't covered about the Hurricane Wars that you want to tell us? Do you want to give us maybe your elevator pitch for this book? Because I have to say, it's phenomenal. Jenny's read it. It's phenomenal. You should all be out reading it. It is now our book of the month in November. The sequel is out in December, I believe. So you have plenty of time to read it and then get the sequel. But yeah, what is your quick pitch?
I swear to God, though, that elevator pitch question always freezes me up like a deer in the headlights.
As a book marketing professional, you want people immediately engaged with the book and what it's about, because if they only listen to the first 10 minutes, then they've got it, you know?
I made you give me my own elevator pitch last time you asked because I was like, I don't know. You do it. You do it.
I did. I interviewed her and did her own elevator pitch.
Okay, so before I get to the quick pitch, can I just say that usually the podcasters ask me what the elevator pitch is at the beginning of the podcast. We got so carried away talking about other things. Okay, so I guess my elevator pitch would go something like, In a Southeast Asian inspired world ravaged by storms, two bitter enemies on opposite sides of a deadly conflict are dragged kicking and screaming into an uneasy alliance in order to save their world from a greater threat that's looming on the horizon. So the question becomes, will they be able to work together to save their world, or will they destroy each other first?
Ooh, I love it. That's very enemies to lovers. I love the bit about kicking and screaming.
Although Jenny, like when you start like with the marketing and stuff for your book, you have to be prepared to give your elevator pitch. That's the one tip I can give. Because that's what everyone asks. You have to memorize your
Oh no, I know. Once I have it memorized, because I'm very much like I need to write it down, I need to have it memorized, like as opposed to top of my head person. Like I think once I have it written down, I can do it. But like just off the top of my head, I cannot do that. Like I just was not ready. Wasn't ready. I'll get ready.
I remember when I went to the Young Adult Literary Convention in the UK, and my cousin popped in from Chicago to meet up with me in the UK, and he met a lot of my author friends as well. So he was like, "So what are all your books about?" And then my author friends just started reeling off like the elevator pitches of their books that they had already memorized. Like it was a reflex, and then he was just staring at all of us like, "Do you guys have cue cards?"
See, they've been trained well. Their marketer and publicist trained them well. Like it is so tough for authors to do that. Like I've always come at it from the other side of being like, okay, I need to distill this to a salesperson or a reviewer or a customer on Facebook Instagram who's gonna see a really quick ad. So I need to be, what is the hook? With my own stuff, it's not as easy. It's like, I don't know. They bang in a wrestling ring, like, cool.
That's what people need to know. Are they going to have sex in the wrestling ring or not?
I mean, if that's the promise you're setting up, like, you better fulfill it. So, Thea, can you tell us where we can find you on the interwebs? And also, can you tell us when the sequel to the Hurricane Wars, which is called A Monsoon Rising, is out so that people can pre-order and pick it up?
So, book 2 in the Hurricane Wars trilogy, A Monsoon Rising, is coming out December 5th in the UK and December 10th in the US. The UK had a Waterstones edition with sprayed edges, but I just recently found out that it's sold out. So, yeah, but the regular hardcover is very nice. Both covers are by Kelly Chong, a Malaysian artist who has done some incredible work with this book. And the North American first print run will feature sprayed edges and very nice end papers. So I'm super excited for everyone to see it. I can be found on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and it's all Thea G Writes. And my website is theaguanzon.com.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been such a great conversation.
Thank you. I love this. Like I learned so much from you guys. Like after this I'm gonna go look up like Dido.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Us too. We learned so much in this conversation as well. And thank you so much, Thea, for coming on the show. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you whenever we see you next.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.